need to confront it, and that's why I'm running to represent the exhausted majority, Democrats, Republicans, and independents,
candidates
against the extremists.
We are going to turn now to foreign policy. Last week, President Biden made the shocking claim that we are on the verge of Armageddon. The reason being Vladimir Putin's threat to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So this question is for both of you. If that were to happen, if Putin were to use nuclear weapons, how should the United States respond? And we begin with you, Congressman Ryan.
Well, it would have to be an aggressive.
No, I think mine is bouncing around a little bit.
At that point where Vladimir Putin will, I hope he doesn't. We should be prepared for all contingencies should he do that, and it should be a swift and significant response. We cannot have a butcher like Vladimir Putin rolling into Ukraine. What he's done there is an absolute atrocity. And the fact that he's killed innocent people, innocent women, innocent girls is so heartbreaking. And the fact that guys like J.D. Vance have said, I don't care what's going on in Ukraine. I will tell you, I've been to Parma, I've been to Cleveland, I've met with the refugees. You know who I meet with? The women and the daughters and sons, because the husbands are in Ukraine fighting. That's the kind of freedom we need to support. And J.D. Vance would let Putin roll right through Ukraine. And I'm just telling you that we got to have a strong military, and we've got to make sure that we can push back people like Vladimir Putin if they try to invade a freedom-loving country. And J.D. Vance is weak on this.
Same question to you then,
Sure.
Mr. Vance. How should we respond if Vladimir Putin uses nuclear weapons in Ukraine?
So the answer is that nobody knows how we should respond if he uses nuclear weapons. Now let me just address this. What Vladimir Putin did was disgusting and wrong, and we all have to admire what the Ukrainians have done as they repelled this invasion. But let's just take stock of something that Tim Ryan said. And Tim, I don't think that you meant anything by it, but I want to hone in on this because it reflects the failure.
Thought he was going somewhere else when he said admire.
The establishment in our country. The same people who got us into Iraq and the same people who got us into Afghanistan for 20 years. He said that if Vladimir Putin uses nuclear weapons, we should have a strong response. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean we're in a nuclear shooting war? I have 3 kids, and I'm running to be the United States Senator for the state of Ohio. I want to protect those children, and I want a foreign policy establishment that puts the interests of our citizens first. What everybody has been doing, and I've been at the very forefront of this, saying we need to de-escalate the situation. Vladimir Putin launching nuclear weapons against...
This is the first Senate debate where we've had a foreign policy question.
Everything possible to prevent. And right now, everybody in the Biden administration at least, seems to be sleepwalking into a nuclear war. That is the worst possible thing that could happen. We have to do everything to prevent it.
I think this is just quickly, because this is an important point here. If J.D. had his way, Putin would be through Ukraine at this point. He'd be going into Poland. If he's using nuclear weapons, what do you want us to do? I mean, you can't just send hopes and prayers.
If I had my way, you'd put money at the southern border, Tim, instead of launching tons of money into Ukraine.
Thank you, candidates. We want to continue on foreign policy here. We want to move to another part of the globe.
President Biden here
recently made headlines saying he would use American military force to defend Taiwan if China were to attack. The question, again, goes to both of you. Should America defend Taiwan? Congressman Ryan, we start with you.
I believe that we should. I believe that we should. This is, we have a commitment. Again, we do not want to be at war with China. We need to outcompete them economically. We need to make sure that we invest into the United States and outcompete them. But we do have commitments. And that's why I have always supported strong investments into our defense, including President Trump's defense budget, President Trump's initiative with the Space Force. We've got to continue to invest into our Navy. Love to get the ship repairs done here in Lorain, Ohio, and in Lordstown, Ohio, where we're talking about making sure we can take our ships out. The problem now, we take a ship out of the water, it's got 4 years before we can fix it and rebuild it. So we have these commitments, but we've got to have a strong military. We've got to have a strong defense, because you never know what circumstance we're going to be in. And I will tell you that China is no joke. They are investing heavily into their military, and you can't see it all.
Thank you, Congressman. Mr. Vance, same question. Should the United States militarily defend Taiwan if they're attacked by China?
Yeah, so Taiwan's a much different situation from Russia and Ukraine because of how important it is to American national security. Now, the policy of this country, bipartisan by the way, over 40 years, was strategic ambiguity.
Oh, the tech venture capitalist has a different idea about
Everybody
Taiwan.
recognized that we would try to do something, maybe not send military troops in a ground war, but we would do something to try to defend Taiwan. The thing we need to do is get ourselves in a position where we don't have to rely on the Chinese and the Taiwanese in the first place. The reason why Taiwan is different is because they make so many of our semiconductors, our computer chips. The entire modern economy would collapse without it. We got to bring that stuff back to this country. Rob Portman, Tim mentioned earlier, senator, of course, of our state, a guy who endorsed me and was critical in getting the CHIPS bill passed. That's the sort of policy you need to break our reliance on China. It's a great piece of legislation. We just got to go much further so we don't have to defend island countries if it's not in our core national interest.
Gentlemen, we're going to switch topics once again, and our next topic is LGBTQ plus rights.
And for our question, you take a look at your monitor candidates. We send it to Nisha Pettyhome from the Next Star station WDTN in Dayton.
Equality Ohio says there are more than 500,000 LGBTQ plus citizens living here. Outgoing Senator Rob Portman is co-sponsoring the Marriage Equality Act that will codify same-sex marriage. Are you ready to support that bill? Why or why not?
Mr. Vance, we start with you.
Yeah, so I've come out against this bill, and I don't think it's actually about
course you
gay
have.
marriage. It's not about same-sex marriage or same-sex equality. Look, gay marriage is the law of the land in this country, and I'm not trying to do anything to change that. But if you look at the specific bill that's being proposed, it wouldn't just codify something that's already enacted in law. It would actually make it easier for both the government and a lot of private parties to sue religious organizations if those religious organizations don't comply with the dictates of the federal government. I'm a devout Christian, and I think it's important to protect religious liberty in this country. We remember about 10 years ago when the Obama administration, I'm sure supported by Tim Ryan, went after a group of Catholic nuns because that Catholic nunnery wanted to run its organization the way that confirmed with its religious beliefs. That should be okay in this country, and the problem with this legislation is it's going to unleash a wave of litigation against
You don't get to
churches,
discriminate
religious
and just
organizations,
say
our
it's your
mosques, our
religious
synagogues,
practice.
everything. That's why I don't think it's a great idea.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. Congressman Ryan, same question.
Yeah, I voted for that in the House of Representatives. I will support codifying that into the Senate. But only J.D. Vance can say that the bill that codifies same-sex marriage is not about same-sex marriage. Only J.D. You're the only one, J.D. Vance, that can actually say that. It's unbelievable. The problem we have here is we have 15,000 marriages here in Ohio. And when you read Justice Thomas's opinion on abortion, which J.D. Vance wants to celebrate, it also included in there nullifying these marriages, and it also included in there getting rid of protections around birth control. This is what I'm trying to explain to Ohioans, that J.D. Vance is extreme on these issues. No exceptions for rape or incest. He called rape inconvenient. He said he denied it, but it's on tape, right? Now he says he's not for same-sex marriage. He's going right down the line with the absolute most extremists, the guys who want to ban books and everything else. Those are the guys you bring into the state to campaign for you, J.D. These are extreme positions that Ohioans are rejecting.
Well,
I want to just point out something about what Tim
Very
Ryan...
quickly, sir.
Yes, Colleen. Thank you. I want to point out something that Tim Ryan just did. One, I answered the question about same-sex marriage, and I identified very specifically a couple of problems with the legislation. Tim didn't address that. He just pretended that it didn't exist. Because here's the problem with Tim Ryan. He spent 20 years in Washington, D.C. He actually doesn't care about the details of public policy, and I'm sure he didn't even read the bill that he voted on. What he does is he reads the canned lines that his consultants give him. You could respond to the argument that I made, Tim. Instead, you decided to pretend, again, that I have views I don't actually hold, so you can't... Look, it's insulting. Voters deserve somebody who actually respects their views.
No, it's insulting that you said something completely different 3 weeks ago. Now you're like, I didn't say that.
On the record, while we're on this topic, the Senate has a unique role of confirming Supreme Court nominees. Marriage equality, as the congressman mentioned, could be revisited by the Supreme Court. Will that be a litmus test for you if you are in the position of evaluating a Supreme Court nominee? And we begin with you, Mr. Vance.
I don't like any litmus test for any Supreme Court nominations. I just want good judges who interpret the Constitution. That's what I really want. And look, Tim Ryan just accused me of being extreme on the LGBT issue. This is a guy who voted just a couple of months ago, right, for the Equality Act, the so-called Equality Act that would literally remove federal funding for free and reduced lunch programming for schools that don't let biological males participate in biological female sports. The extremist here, Tim, is...
That sounds good to me. Yes. You can't discriminate against people and get federal money. It is good.
We are on the litmus test question, and you can respond to him on that as well.
Yeah, I will have a litmus test. I will have a litmus test on Roe v. Wade. I'll have a litmus test on the same-sex marriage. I'll have a litmus test on birth control. We cannot keep going down this road of taking away rights. The Dobbs decision was the absolute first decision where the Supreme Court is taking rights away from people. It's not right. You know, we don't want doctors in our bedrooms. We don't want doctors politicians in our bedrooms and politicians in our doctors' offices. That's not what we want. And that's what this group of people who have taken over the Supreme Court and taken over state legislatures want. They want control. They want to control women. They want to tell you what kind of marriage you can have. They want to tell you whether or not you can use birth control. And look, the reality of it is we got to get the government out of a lot of these decisions and let the local governments make the school and the education decisions.
Thank you, candidates. We are going to move on to another topic, immigration. It's something that comes up a lot on the campaign trail. It's come up a lot already tonight, and it's something you may have a chance to weigh in on if you're elected to the Senate. We begin with Representative Ryan. You recently did an interview with our Columbus station calling for continued construction of parts of a border wall where experts say it makes sense. You don't hear many Democrats calling for continued construction of a wall. In fact, when former President Trump proposed the wall, you're one of the Democrats who called it a, quote, vanity project. What changed?
Well, I think to have a wall from sea to shining sea doesn't make any sense. You can't put a wall in the middle of the Rio Grande River. But if you can put a barrier up somewhere...
Or in the middle of people's property.
I'm all for it. But El Chapo digs under that barrier as well, which is why I've always supported increased funding for Border Patrol. I started the Border Technology Caucus to figure out how we can use technology that we have in the United States to prevent this fentanyl from coming in that goes from China to Mexico into the country, and now even more so with rainbow fentanyl, which is scary for so many people. It's got to be
shut up, no
approach, and then figure out who's in the country, right? If they're here, pay a fine, pay back taxes, pass a background check, and come into the country. I also have a resolution designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction so we could have a whole-of-government approach making sure we stop it. This is in contrast to our guy here who is investing into companies that hire foreign workers. Has a real tough position on immigration, and then he hires people and invests in companies that hire foreign workers. Real tough position on China, and then he invests in China, manufactures products, and sends them back.
Thank you, Congressman. Mr. Vance, we want to get to you. We have a question for you on this. You call for reform to our legal immigration system as well on your website, but you say we should only allow immigrants in if they contribute, quote, something meaningful to our country. How would you define what is meaningful? Can you give specifics?
Well, I think skills and ability to learn or already know the English language, that's all very important. I'm a big fan of what Tom Cotton has proposed called the RAISE Act. But look, I mean, the illegal...
Sounds like you want white immigrants.
I know very personally, and I've been
European countries.
Personally. My mom struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early childhood, and I'm very proud to say, by the way, she's been clean and sober for 7 years. I'm sure she's watching right now. I love you, Mom.
You need a doobie, dude.
Blessings for our family is that we got a second chance with Mom. We got that 7 years clean and sober because the poison that was coming into the country, thank God, 15 years ago, was not nearly as dangerous as the poison that's coming into the country today. Tim Ryan has done nothing to stop the flow of fentanyl. He talks about wanting to support a stronger border. He talks about wanting to be bipartisan and get things done. Well, Tim, you've been in Congress for 20 years, and the border problem has got worse and worse and worse. I don't care about what.
For those of you who don't know, fentanyl.
What have you done? What have you
yes, it's an issue, but it's not an issue that it's made out to be. John Oliver covered the rainbow fentanyl last night. All these cops that are saying they're ODing on fentanyl, that's never happened. No cop touched fentanyl and ever OD'd. That never happened.
Of course, we believe those things. Tim Ryan has had 20 years to get something done, and he just hasn't done it.
So Congressman Ryan, we're going to give you a chance to answer that, as well as our next question, which is that the Vice President, Kamala Harris, said just last month that the southern border is secure. So do you agree with her, and how do you respond to the accusations that just came from Mr. Vance?
Kamala Harris is absolutely wrong on that. It's not secure. We have a lot of work to do. I'm not here to just get in a fight or just toe the Democratic Party line. I'm here to speak the truth. We do have more work to do, which
supposedly
is why
we've had record apprehension. So how is that not secure?
Destruction, which is why I vote for more border patrol. Why I vote for a barrier. Why I vote for technology and started the Border Technology Caucus. So that's what I have done. You know what I haven't done? I didn't start a fake nonprofit pretending like I was going to help people with addiction like J.D. Vance did. Literally started a nonprofit and didn't spend one nickel on anybody. In fact, he brought in somebody from Purdue Pharma to be the spokesperson for the nonprofit. The same drug company, Big Pharma, the big drug company that had all the pill mills going, got everybody addicted. 1 million people died, J.D. 1 million people died. And you started a nonprofit to try to take advantage of people in Ohio. And you know what? All you did with it was launch your political career. His campaign manager worked for that nonprofit. He ran a poll to check his own standing from that nonprofit. I'm not going to take a backseat to you or anybody else on fentanyl, drugs, or immigration or anything else. Somebody that would, what kind of man would start a fake nonprofit to try to deal with addiction and not spend any money on anybody?
None of this is true.
It's like a Trumpian kind of move.
Here's the problem with what Tim Ryan said. It's shameful for you to attack me, given that my family was affected by this problem. I put $80,000 of my own money into that nonprofit organization, Tim, and it absolutely did help people. Now, here's the thing. If you're in Ohio and you've seen these ridiculous commercials that Tim Ryan runs telling dishonest truths, dishonest lies about my nonprofit organization, it's paid by pharmaceutical blood money, because the very same corporations that caused this poison to come into our country in the first place have funded your campaign to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. Why are the people who've gotten rich off the opioid epidemic funding Tim Ryan and attacking me? The answer is obvious, because this guy is the biggest fan of pharma, and he's the biggest fan of illegal pharma, which is the Mexican drug cartels that are bringing this poison into our country.
I just need a chance to respond to that. My record is impeccable on,
clearly it's not, Tim,
pharmaceuticals and taking on big pharma.
Tim Ryan has really won me over in this debate.
I don't vote with them. I don't vote with them.
But you do take their money.
Just a couple weeks ago, we passed a Medicare reform provision that for the first time in decades, we will be able to negotiate down drug prices. Big Pharma didn't like that. Fought it tooth and nail. I voted against them. We capped prescription drug costs in the Medicare program for seniors to $2,000. My mom falls into the donut hole. She'll pay $1,000 a month in prescription drugs. We capped it to $2,000 a year. I helped get that passed. I took on the pharmaceutical company. Insulin, we got it to $35 for Medicare recipients. I fought for that, and I got it. So time and time again, I have voted against the pharmaceutical, but this is the smoke and mirrors that our guy likes to put up here.
Our guy, I love this.
Didn't do anything and had a spokesperson who was a mouthpiece for Big Pharma.
It's time now to move on to our next topic,
that I pointed out the tens of thousands of dollars that he gets.
Our next topic, the recent fatal police shootings of Jalen
and like Tim Ryan may be able to pull this out. The other senator from Ohio is a Democrat. Sherrod Brown is excellent.
Communities of color. Many activists call for a complete overhaul of policing in America. Mr. Vance, back in 2017, you said, quote, there are legitimate concerns that a lot of black Americans have that they're not treated fairly by some members of the police. It has been 5 years since you said that. Is that still your position today?
No, of course not.
Colleen. I mean, look, I've talked to a number of police officers, and, you know, one of the interesting things I've heard from our police officers, and of course I've been endorsed by the statewide Fraternal Order of Police, because during the rioting a couple of years ago, Tim Ryan threw these guys under the bus and I didn't. But one of the things I hear from them is that they want to do more community policing. They actually want to do more engagement, whether it's black, white, or brown, with people in the community that they're actually trying to keep safe. The problem is it's really hard to do that when you're 25%, 30% understaffed. So we've got to increase funding for law enforcement. We've got to protect law enforcement, and we've got to do something that Tim Ryan failed to do, which is stop the leadership of this country from going after qualified immunity. Here's what qualified immunity does. It provides legal protections for our police officers when they do their jobs. They need that so that they can attract the right people and so that they can focus on keeping people safe, not litigation from ridiculous actions.
No, it stops you from being able to sue cops when they fuck over your rights.
99% of our cops are great people. If we make their job easier, we're actually going to allay the concerns of a lot of heavily policed communities. We're also going to make...
I assure you, I have stories tonight that will make you think that cops are not 99% good people.
Cities, police departments are struggling. Crime is going
Stay tuned after the debate.
Is going down amid this increased scrutiny that he alluded to. Officers are retiring early, and police departments are having problems attracting new police officers. So what's the solution to that problem?
Well, I've tried to be a part of the solution here. We need more cops. We need better paid cops. And yeah, we got to get rid of bad cops. We need more technology and equipment. I've brought back almost $500 million for law enforcement here in Ohio. And when I get to the Senate, I will continue to do that. I was the lead advocate for putting money into the rescue package for state and local government. Governor DeWine is now going around the state passing out money for law enforcement. That's federal money. I agree that the governor should do that, and I'm glad he's doing it, but that's federal money that I helped get into that bill so that law enforcement has the resources they need, and we have to keep helping out. But I will say this. I am not going to take a back seat to J.D. Vance on law enforcement, or anything else for that matter. The fact that on January 6th, we had 140 cops, United States Capitol Police, get injured during the insurrection when they tried to overthrow the government. Beat them upside the head with lead pipes, spray them with pepper spray. The one video we saw, the cop got jammed into the door, right? J.D. Vance raised money for the legal defense fund of the insurrectionists. This is the kind of extremism, J.D., that we wholly reject. You have video posts. Don't even try to deny it. We got your Twitter posts and everything else. Everybody's seen it. He said, help these guys with their legal defense fund. Now, can you imagine?
Ryan going for blood.
Saying out of one side of his mouth, he's pro-cop, and out of the other side of his mouth, he's raising money for the insurrectionists who were beating up the Capitol Police. The one guy he tried to raise money for got 4 years in prison. This is ridiculous. I'm not taking a back seat to you. I brought $500 million back to fund police in Ohio.
So I've got 3 little kids, including a 2-year-old, and one of the things that's true of toddlers and is also apparently true of career politicians is that they accuse you of doing the very thing that they do themselves all the time. At the height.
We're going to hear about 2020.
BLM riots. I've condemned political violence, whether it comes from the left or the right. But at the height of the BLM riots, where they were rioting and looting and burning down America's cities, Ohio cities and small towns, Tim Ryan threw the police under the bus. He attacked them as the new Jim Crow, as systemically racist, and he voted for legislation that would have stripped funding from them and redirected it towards litigation defense. This is another example of Tim Ryan talking about what he would like to do. Tim, you don't sound too bad. If you actually tried to do the things you talk about wanting to do, you wouldn't be half bad. The problem is you got 20 years and you failed to do any of it.
All right, thank you, candidates. We are now going to move on to our next topic.
And for that, we turn once again to Nisha Pettyhome from our next star station in Dayton, WDTN.
It wasn't even BLM.
If you look at your monitor.
It was an Antifa.
Polling has indicated Americans are increasingly concerned about threats to our democracy. We pose that question to you. What do you feel is the biggest threat to democracy right now?
And Congressman Ryan, this goes first to you.
I think it's extremism that we saw during the insurrection, and you could see that J.D. didn't answer it. He did raise money for the insurrectionists. He's all in with those people who are the election deniers, who call into question the most fundamental act we have, the foundation of this country.
Think we're stupid?
He's called into question the
fools?
presidential election. That's a threat to our democracy, and running around with people who want to ban books and get the government in our bedroom and in our doctor's offices. But I tell you what I think politically is a huge threat to our democracy. And that's guys that don't have the guts to stand up to their own party. Okay? Now, I've run against Nancy Pelosi. I have taken on Bernie Sanders. I have opposed Joe Biden on numerous pieces of legislation that he wants to try to promote and push. And I've agreed with Donald Trump on trade, renegotiating NAFTA, being firmer on China, defense, General Mattis being Secretary of Defense, and all the rest. And I think the problem is when you have guys like J.D. Vance who can't stand up to anybody. Like just a few weeks ago in Youngstown, on the stage, Donald Trump said to J.D. Vance, all you do is kiss my ass to get my support. He said
he did. We saw it.
That means J.D. Vance is going to do whatever he wants. Mitch McConnell's given him $40 million. He's going to do what he wants. And Peter Thiel gave him $15 million. He's going to do what he wants. And here's the thing that's most troubling about this, lack of courage, is that after Trump took J.D. Vance's dignity from him on the stage in Youngstown, J.D. Vance got back up on stage and started shaking his hand, take a picture, saying, hey, aren't we having a great time here tonight? I don't know anybody I grew up with, I don't know anybody I went to high school with that would allow somebody to take their dignity like that and then get back up on stage. We need leaders who have courage to take on their own party. And I've proven that, and he was called an ass kisser by the former president.
The question is the biggest threat to democracy.
Sure.
If you would like to answer that first, and then you can respond to some of his accusations.
So I will answer the question, Colleen, because I think it's important for the voters for us to actually answer the questions. But first of all, I'm not going to take lectures on dignity and self-respect from a guy caught on video kissing up to Chuck Schumer and begging him for a promotion to his next job. That's the kind of guy that Tim Ryan is. Now, he just said, it's so funny, we're getting close to Halloween, and Tim Ryan is put on a costume where he pretends to be a reasonable moderate. But in fact, he said he stands up to his own party. The last two Congresses, Tim, you voted for Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden 100%. You consistently toe the party line on every single issue. I wish that you were the reasonable moderate. You said you were, because then Youngstown may have not lost 50,000 manufacturing jobs during your 20 years. On the threat to democracy, Colleen, so he just accused me of being an election denier. This is a term that Democrats throw around. Here's the thing I've said about the 2020 election, and it really implicates big tech. I think we have great elections in the state of Ohio, and I encourage everybody, even if you're going to vote for this guy, to get out there and vote by November the 8th. But here's the thing. We know, because Facebook has told us, that leadership of the FBI approached Facebook and told them to censor information that was negative about Joe Biden, about Hunter Biden's corrupt business dealings. You cannot have a multinational corporation that's in bed with the communist Chinese that's censoring information about one of America's political parties and doing it in a way that interferes with people's knowledge and ultimately people's votes. That's a threat to democracy. Big tech has way too much power.
That didn't happen.
And it benefits the Democrats.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. We do want to follow up with you. You are, it's come up here, you're endorsed by and you've been campaigning with former President Donald Trump. He is facing multiple criminal investigations. Is there anything the former president has done that concerns you?
I mean, is there anything he's done that's concerned me? Why don't we let the criminal investigations actually play out? Because I was alive during 2016 to 2020, and what I saw was consistently rumors that finally Donald Trump was going to be indicted, that he was going to be accused of something legitimately criminal. Of course, Tim Ryan, despite his commercials, voted to impeach him twice. I have seen nothing that would suggest the President of the United States should be thrown in prison. And most importantly here, if you're going to make accusations like this, the Attorney General of the United States,
have your eyes closed,
one of the most political actors in the history of American justice, if you want to go after a former president, a possible future president, or at least a future political candidate, you've got to tell the American people why. We have really corrupt leadership at the Department of Justice, and that's a problem.
Well, buddy, guess what they were protesting in 2020?
President Biden called the MAGA Republicans the threat to American democracy. Was he right?
Have I got a protest for you, J.D. Vance?
Storm the Capitol are a threat to the democracy. Those people who say that the election was fraudulent are a threat to our democracy. If we lose the foundational element of this country, our vote, our elections, then we lose everything. And we got very close to that on January 6th when people wanted to kill Mike Pence and overthrow the peaceful transition. This is not some throwaway line. And that's what I want people in Ohio to understand. This is the crowd that JD is running around with. The election deniers. The extremists. That's not
Some of them have herpes.
That's not Rob Portman. That's not
Most of them have herpes. Most people have herpes.
Sherrod Brown, right? That's not for us. He's running with an extreme element here that's very, very dangerous.
First of all, Rob Portman,
you're running with the devil.
And I find it interesting how preoccupied you are with this at a time when people can't afford groceries, people can't afford to walk down the streets safely. Let's focus on the significant issues right now, Tim.
I was just in Cincinnati a few years ago, walked down the street safely, I assure you.
And this is to both of you. Do you both pledge to accept the results of this Senate election, Mr. Vance?
Of course.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
In the interest of time, and we are running tight on time, we're going to ask you a few more rapid-fire questions, give you each about 20 to 30 seconds to answer so we can get some more topics in.
I've enjoyed the questions here tonight.
Do you support the federal decriminalization of marijuana? Congressman Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
I do. I support legalization of marijuana. I think the fact that we spend tens of billions of dollars putting people in prison for marijuana crimes is ridiculous. We should legalize it, we should tax it, we should use it to fund our schools, and we should make sure we retrain all these people who've had their lives destroyed by going to prison for a marijuana crime.
Fucking A.
Mr. Vance?
Okay, so one, I think it should be a state's issue. States should make these decisions. Second, I don't want anybody going to prison for smoking a joint. That's not at all what I want to do. The third thing is we got to be careful here not to be soft on crime, because a lot of times you'll hear somebody thrown in prison for smoking a joint, which like I just said, I don't think that's a good idea. That's not something that we should be doing. But that's just true on paper. And if you look at the underlying charge, you'll see it wasn't just that they smoked a joint, it's that they smoked a joint and then beat an elderly woman over the head with a pistol. Those people should go to prison, and just having pled down to a so-called nonviolent drug offense, they should still be going to jail. We have to be careful about how we do this. We don't want to be soft on crime for people like that.
Mr. Vance, if your party wins the majority, who should be the Senate leader?
Like, whoever runs. I don't want Chuck Schumer to be the Senate Majority Leader, that's for sure. The guy that Tim Ryan says he wants to be his boss.
Yes, Mr. Balls, I've been beating women over the head, old ladies.
We can have that conversation, but I know who I don't want to be the Senate Majority Leader, that's Chuck Schumer.
Well, I'll go back to you. Mr. Ryan, you told me in an interview about a week ago, and you mentioned it tonight. It's time for the old guard to be gone.
I'm just saying, if you don't want Chuck Schumer to be the Senate Majority Leader, you probably should have dropped out of this race.
Well, I'm going to vote for the person who's going to give the absolute best deal to Ohio. You know, JD's talking about a joke that I made, but the reality of it is I have been a pain in the rear end to Nancy Pelosi. And if Chuck Schumer's the leader, I will be.
He's kicking authority
He's
in the
kicking
balls.
authority in the balls.
Ohio. I don't kiss anyone's ass like him. Ohio needs an ass kicker, not an ass kisser.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Another
well-rehearsed line, too.
Another one for you here. Do you believe in term limits at the federal level? We'll start with Mr. Vance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we had term limits, frankly, we would get career politicians who've never had a real job out of Washington, D.C. when they fail, and they'd have to go get a real job.
You're a venture capitalist. That's not a real job,
Tim Ryan had
bitch.
to go back to Youngstown and work in the private sector, then spend all of his time in Washington, D.C.
Congressman Ryan.
I think term limits are at the ballot box. I'm just going to say something to J.D. Vance. You know, my family has done nothing but serve their whole lives. That's where I learned it. My grandfather at his church, he was a lead usher at 1045 Mass, ran the beer tent. My mom helped with the church. My grandmother helped at the church. I'd play on the Our Lady of Mount Carmel playground. My grandfather would be there painting the rectory. You know, we give back. I'm not going to apologize for spending 20 years of my adult life slogging away to try to help one
Ain't sorry.
hardest economically hit regions of Ohio and dedicated my life to help that region come back. You got to be ashamed of yourself, JD. You went off to California, you were drinking wine and eating cheese, and you said, I don't even feel comfortable.
Ain't nothing wrong with drinking wine, eating cheese.
I'm
not gonna sit here and let you demean my service that I learned from my family. That when I went to Catholic school, we had to spend time going to help people. It was called senior service. I had to put on my football jersey and go serve in the community. This is an extension of that.
I admire the spirit of service.
No,
what I don't admire is the failure of accomplishment.
I'm a cheese snob. I take exception to what he said.
That's what I don't admire.
Gentlemen, we are just about out of time. We want to get to your closing statements, so we thank you both very much.
We are going to give each of you 1 minute here for your closing statements. As agreed, we are going to start with Congressman Ryan. You have 60 seconds.
America's a great place. right? This country has fed more people, clothed more people, cured more people, and liberated more people than all the other countries in the world combined. And we have to rebuild the American middle class. Ohio has always led the way. We've got great things happening in Ohio. But I met a woman in Marietta who was a single mom who had to travel 2 hours to work and 2 hours back. That's who I'm fighting for. That's why we went all in on electric vehicles, where we now have 4 vehicles in the old General Motors Lordstown plant. We're manufacturing the jobs of the future. Solar panels in Toledo, natural gas in the Southeast, the chips manufacturing plant is going to be a blockbuster. Average wage $135,000 a year. Battery plant in the Mahoning Valley. Look, we have an opportunity to be the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, the arsenal of energy. I will never forget where I came from. And if you want to help this campaign, go to timforoh.com.
This is Tim Ryan, the Democratic nominee.
A movement of the exhausted majority, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, to move this.
On the right is J.D. Vance, the Republican nominee. This is the Ohio Senate
20 years ago, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. That very same year, Tim Ryan went to Washington, D.C., where he has been failing at his basic job for 20 years. Talks a big game, but the record of accomplishment just isn't there. I think there's something very basic here. I think that people deserve certain things. Ohioans deserve certain things from their federal leadership. They deserve to go to the grocery store and be able to afford food without it breaking the bank. They deserve streets that you can walk down safely. They deserve a country that has a border. I promise, we may not always agree on everything, but I'll never forget where I came from, and I'll never stop fighting to achieve those things for the people who deserve them. This is such an important election. I'd encourage people to go to jdvance.com and support me, but at the end of the day, the question here is whether we need new leadership in this state. Double down on the last 2 years of failed leadership, or take this country in a different direction. I thank you all for listening. I thank you for watching, and I hope to earn your vote. God bless you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. And that concludes tonight's Ohio United States.
God bless you guys.
Thank you once again to both candidates.
Now, the reason this is important is this is an open Senate seat. This is retiring Republican Rob Portman's Senate seat. The other senator from Ohio is a Democrat, and a very popular Democrat. Sherrod Brown is an excellent senator from the state of Ohio. So Tim Ryan absolutely stands a shot. We looked at the polls. Latest polling, which I think was a week ago, showed that J.D. Vance had about a 1.5 point lead. We did that story last night. That was the Ohio Senate debate. That is our first debate of the week. We've got a couple more coming up. On Wednesday, we have Tudor Dixon. No, I'm sorry, on Thursday. On Thursday, we have Tudor Dixon and Gretchen Whitmer. The Michigan gubernatorial debate. Republican nominee Tudor Dixon debates Gretchen Whitmer, the Democratic incumbent, the Michigan governor's race. Also on Thursday, we get a second Wisconsin Senate debate between Republican incumbent Ron Johnson and Democratic nominee Mandela Barnes. He is the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, and boy, he's incredibly likable. We watched those two go at it last week. We get a second debate this Thursday. That was very enjoyable. And then on Friday, we're going to wrap up this week of debates with, it's a big one. Herschel Walker, the Republican nominee in the Georgia Senate race, will be debating the Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock. As of yesterday, that debate is still going forward. There has been rumors that Herschel Walker will back out because of all of the abortion scandal going around. But apparently it is still going forward. Now this is the usual time that the Troll Patrol comes on. So I'm going to do this. Hold on. I'm not going to make you watch the video. We're going to scrub forward here just so we can get the... went too far.
This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol live. It's a freaking Monday. Warlord, what it do? Clinically insane. Lenny Jr., love you guys. Mandy, so happy to see you. Porg, Mr. Balls. Trying to make sure I get everybody. Reverse Thread, always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you guys. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody, but we've been going for a while now. We just watched the Ohio Senate debate. Let me pull up the meme of the day so we're ready to go here. What are we gonna be talking about on tonight's show, you may ask? Unfortunately, I have cop videos. A teen was shot by the cops while he was eating a burger in his car. That one's really going to make your blood boil. We also have video of a mom who is demanding an apology from the cops in Virginia after they rammed her car. She had nothing to do with the suspect they were pursuing. The head of the LA City Council, the Los Angeles City Council, has had to step down after being caught on audio making racist remarks. Also in the racist remark category, the NAACP is condemning Senator Tommy Tuberville for remarks he made at the Trump rally that we watched on Saturday? I'm getting days confused now. We've just been streaming all month. It's political month here, leading up to the election on November 8th. We are finding out that Trump tried to blackmail the National Archives by keeping classified documents. We also have leaked Kevin McCarthy audio, the House Republican leader. I don't know what he was caught saying, but we'll listen to it together. A hacking group has been targeting airports. Today they shut down the website of the Atlanta airport. I believe they did it as a precaution. I don't think the group actually hacked them. We're going to take a look at that story. Biden has 2 words for ya. Any 90s wrestling fans popped for that one. A Law & Order star got into it with Lauren Boebert and Stephen Miller on Twitter. We're going to take a look and see if the military has gone full MAGA. Plus, a right-wing nut job says if God tells you to kill somebody, you should probably do it. All that and more tonight on the Troll Patrol. Live. Here's your meme of the day. Your therapist tells you to pray. What the fuck? But starting off tonight, it is what some people, some racist-ass people, and there's a theme on tonight's show, it seems. It is what some racist-ass people would call Columbus Day. So I would be remiss if we didn't start off by talking about the difference between Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day and the debate that is raging throughout the country. What is Indigenous Peoples Day? Is it offensive to celebrate Columbus Day? I'm going to go ahead and tell you, no matter what the USA Today says, the answer is yeah, it's pretty offensive. Fuck Columbus. So, do we want to watch this video? Let's do it. Several states and dozens of cities observe it instead of or in addition to Columbus Day, talking about Indigenous Peoples Day, a federal holiday since 1937. Critics of Columbus Day claim it overlooks the Italian explorer's history of colonialism and treatment of indigenous people. based video of a statue being taken down. Some Italian Americans defend the holiday, which they see is tied to their heritage, which I don't understand. On Indigenous Peoples Day, we honor America's first inhabitants and the tribal nations that continue to thrive today. First proposed in 1977, many states celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day under different names. Chainsaw, thank you for being a freaking Chainsaw. CC. Thank you for being a freaking follower. California and Nevada honor Native Americans Day. Tennessee is American Indian Day. Kind of weird because, you know, Columbus called them Indians because he thought he was in India. The second Monday of October has been a national holiday for close to a century, but this will be only the second year that Indigenous Peoples Day has held that designation. Last October, President Joe Biden signed the first presidential proclamation of Indigenous Peoples Day, a commemoration turned holiday that began in 1977 to honor Native American history and culture. That presidential stamp of approval was the most significant boost to date of efforts refocusing a federal holiday that for decades celebrated Christopher Columbus's discovery of America. Although few Americans are arguing with the notion of being off work come Monday, Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day, and I don't think that many people actually get like the day off. What is a federal holiday, and then like banks take the day off. Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day have prompted political debate in states, cities, and municipalities around the U.S., especially in the past decade, with some pushing against change and others favoring Indigenous Peoples Day instead. The celebrating of Indigenous Peoples Day took root in 1977 at an international conference on discrimination sponsored by the United Nations. It's grown as a day to honor Native American peoples and commemorates their histories and cultures. South Dakota was the first state to recognize the day in 1989, and the California cities of Berkeley and Santa Cruz followed. In 1990, the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas, sponsored by the United Nations, began to discuss replacing Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. California and Tennessee observe Native American Day in September, not conflicting with Columbus Day. Scott Stevens, the director of the Native American and Indigenous Studies program at Syracuse University, said Indigenous Peoples Day is about resilience of what past cultures have endured as much as it is about honoring heritage. For a dozen states and more than 130 local governments have chosen not to celebrate Columbus Day altogether or replace it with Indigenous Peoples Day. Many states celebrate both. 11 U.S. states celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day or a holiday of a similar name via proclamation, while 10 others treat it as an official holiday. The 10 states that observe the holiday via proclamation are Arizona, California, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, North Carolina, Virginia, Wisconsin, and the District of Columbia. And the 10 that officially celebrate it are Alabama, Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, Nebraska, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, and Vermont. Some tribal groups in Oklahoma celebrate Native American Day in lieu of Columbus Day, with some groups naming the day in honor of their individual tribes. This is one of them lefty liberal commie channels, sir.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
It sure is. I can actually sum up my political beliefs with one phrase, and that is, I would give anything, everything I own, to piss in Dan Crenshaw's open eye hole. Give me that eye pussy, sir. So if you want to call that leftist, okay. I get called commie a lot by people that I'm way more capitalist than. Is Jordan Peterson banging Jake? I don't think Jordan Peterson can get it up anymore. What is up, Sky Comet? How are you this evening? I am so happy to see you. J.K. Rowling and Jordan Peterson should both learn to feel embarrassment. That's all I got to say. My beliefs. All right, I'm going to hit the content warning for this. We're going to the cop stories. These are going to piss you off. You may have heard about this one. Bixart County DA finally drops the charges against a teen who was shot by a now former SAPD officer. District Attorney Joe Gonzalez said he was exercising compassionate discretion because the teen is in critical condition in the hospital. Not because he didn't do anything wrong, you know? I guess they're not admitting fault on that one. Let's watch the local news hit on it.
There are new developments tonight in the case involving a teen who was shot by a San Antonio police officer at a local McDonald's. The Bexar County District Attorney dropping charges against the teen who is still in the hospital. Alan Kozlu walks us through the case, and we do want to warn you, the video you're about to see is disturbing.
Get out of the car.
This interaction last Sunday with San Antonio police officer James Brennan left 17-year-old Eric Cantu with 4 bullet wounds and 2 criminal charges from SAPD.
When the case was filed?
No, they charged the kid. This kid did nothing wrong. He was just eating burgers in a parking lot. Did absolutely fuck all wrong.
This interaction last Sunday with San Antonio police officer James Brennan left 17-year-old Eric Cantu with 4 bullet wounds and 2 criminal charges from SAPD.
When the case was filed, the teenager was originally charged with evading with the vehicle and aggravated assault.
Today, Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez announced he is rejecting those charges for now, but can pursue them later depending on the
outcome. Oh, absolutely. They will pay through the ass.
The decision in part so Cantu's family can be by his side.
There's no risk of him escaping. It's not like he can get up and run away.
As for
they had him shackled.
Has been fired after 7 months on the force. Civil rights investigators are also looking at the incident.
And again, I don't want to speculate. We know a deadly weapon was used. That's aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. There are certain enhancements by the statute given the officer's stature.
Gonzalez says that any charges...
Charge that cop. This only happened a few days ago, Chainsaw.
We charge an officer with a crime. It is a very serious matter, and we take it very seriously. But we do that because I have made a commitment to this community that there is no one that is above the law, and we will hold everyone accountable.
From downtown, Alan Kozlu, KENS 5.
Yeah, I'm on Sunday through Thursday. I think this might have happened Thursday night or Wednesday night. And then I just didn't want to cover it last night because we had a Iranian-American activist on to tell us about what was going on in Iran. So I just didn't feel like doing cop stories after that. But I got another one for you. I'm going to hit the content warning again. At least no one is in the hospital over this incident that I know of. But a mom is demanding an apology after police mistakenly detained her.
Demanding an apology.
Ramming her car.
Fairfax County Police after they intentionally ran into her car over the weekend with her children inside it.
Police say they were responding to an alert on the car she was driving. Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey reports this young mom was not the person police were looking for.
Of course she wasn't.
Jamie Kimball gets emotional as she talks about the incident on Saturday afternoon. A video she posted of the aftermath getting thousands of views.
I still am very angry and more than anything hurt because I teach my children that the police are supposed to protect us. And that if they need anything.
I'm sorry to laugh at you, ma'am. I want to make absolutely clear, don't ever call the cops. The cops will make the situation worse. They'll show up, they'll shoot your dog. They'll shoot somebody you love. They'll shoot you. They ain't gonna stop crime. We've seen it time and time again. Cops are cowards. Cops are incompetent. And cops will lie even when they have no business lying. And Usually John Oliver has pretty shit-lived takes, but John Oliver last night pointed out cops fucking lie all the time. And that is something I've been saying on this show and before I ever even had this show. Cops fucking lie even when they have no reason to. I know because I did news for years. I would know for a fact that what they were telling me was not true. Have multiple eyewitnesses telling me a completely different story. The cops lie even when they have no reason to lie. Time and time again, they had absolutely no reason to lie. They're just pathological. The job attracts a certain personality type, and you shouldn't trust them. You should not give them all of that power unchecked. I am sorry. That is why I am a police abolitionist. Something has to be in their place, but we need to rebuild it from scratch because we have psychopaths with badges running around in armored tanks and automatic weapons. It's insane. What the fuck are we doing? I'm sorry to go on that rant, ma'am. Please tell your story.
They need, and that if they need anything, they can call them for help.
Jamie and a girlfriend were headed to Walmart to get groceries. Jamie's 5-year-old daughter and 1-year-old son in the back seat. They'd noticed a police car trailing, then pulling up alongside them on Richmond Highway. When they reached this intersection, ready to turn left into the Walmart, Fairfax County patrol cars suddenly converged, one striking Jamie's car head on. The driver in the car behind Jamie took this video.
Well, I don't know what protocol is, but they drew their guns at me and my friend from both sides of the car.
On top of the shock, Jamie was still healing from a C-section birth just days earlier. She and her friend were handcuffed, her kids put in a police car. Once Jamie was released, asking to go to the hospital, she took and posted this video, her anger clear.
They stopped the wrong person here on Richmond Highway, y'all.
As Jamie Kimball's video circulated on social media, Fairfax County Police issued a statement explaining why they stopped the vehicle and why they thought there might be somebody dangerous inside. Police say they were responding to a felony alert
because they're stupid.
In Arlington County, an alert that listed the occupants as armed and dangerous. They also say the police car that hit Jamie was going less than 10 miles per hour. After Jamie was detained, officers determined she was not connected to any.
I don't give a shit that you were going less than 10 miles an hour. You hit a car that is going to be expensive to repair because cars are made now to crumble in order to protect the people inside. That is probably $1,500 worth of damage at least if she's lucky. If not $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Guaranteed. And the cops aren't going to pay for that.
Crime. Fairfax County Police say they are conducting an administrative review of the incident. Jamie wants to know why officers didn't just use lights and siren for the stop. She wants the officer who hit her car fired, and she wants an apology.
I could have lost my life. My kids could have lost their lives. Luckily, everyone in the car was in his seatbelt.
Jamie expects the emotional damage will be long-lasting.
This was a very traumatic situation, and for a long time, probably forever, for me and my 5-year-old, this will forever affect us.
Reporting for News 4, I'm Julie Carey.
Jamie Kimball tells us she's scheduled to speak to a police department representative by phone on Wednesday.
I hope she speaks to an attorney in person with post-haste. Because I think she has a lawsuit. Unfortunately, if she ever sees money and settlement from the city, most likely, that would be a couple of years from now. Let's go to a city that's had plenty of settlements against it. In LA, there has been leaked audio that has resulted in the head of the city council having to resign. Apparently said some pretty racist shit, so content warning.
And while Martinez has resigned as council president, protesters
thank you, Chainsaw.
are making their voices loud and clear. They're demanding her resignation from the council itself. KCAL 9's Tina Patel has more reaction on the council controversy.
We don't know if Nori Martinez is.
Hey, Chainsaw, if you do broadcasting, if you do streaming and shit, fucking get up with me on Discord or something. On Friday nights, we do rotating guest hosts. I'd love to have you on.
Home. We haven't seen anyone come in or out of the house today, but police are keeping.
I'll have on just about anybody.
Earlier this morning,
we have no standards around here
to this neighborhood, so only residents could come and go. The police aren't sure if there are going to be more protests here, but they wanted to be prepared and protect neighbors. They say there has been vandalism at some past protesters here. Last night, it was a peaceful group of about 50 people that showed up outside Martinez's home, holding signs and calling on the council president to resign. They say the racist remarks Martinez has heard making in the leaked audio recordings show she is unfit for office. And that's what we also heard from some protesters outside City Hall today.
Are we going to get to hear the audio?
That Nuri Martinez, Gil Cedillo, Kevin De Leon, and Ron Herrera must resign immediately. This is a moment for us to draw a hard line in the sand.
As we said, Martinez has announced her intention to step down as council president. Just before that, we had a chance to talk with council member Mitch O'Farrell. Here's what he had to say.
What we all became aware of yesterday, the hate speech, the racist talk, the transgressions, the abject, ultimate abuse of power away from the public eye in a secretive space, excluding Angelenos, excluding us, other council members, is unconscionable.
Because today is Indigenous Peoples Day, there are no city meetings, but the city council is scheduled to meet tomorrow morning, and we will see then if any formal actions are taken against Martinez or the other council members heard in that recording. In Sun Valley, Tina Patel, KCAL 9 News.
And both mayoral candidates have weighed.
Oh, I'm trying to get you the audio here. Hold on. Go to Twitter. I have it with the LA Times, but
oddest thing, whatever the kid's name is, I'm like, it's like the oddest thing. It's like black and brown on this float, and then there's this white guy with the little black kid who's misbehaving.
Take a look earlier this morning.
Hold on.
They're not doing it. Yeah, no, they're not doing. The kid is bouncing off the effing walls on the float, practically tipping it over. There's nothing you can do to control him. Parece changuito. And I'm just like, oh my God. Whatever the kid's name is, I'm like, it's like the oddest thing. It's like black and brown on this float, and then there's this white guy with the little black kid who's misbehaved. Este niño has they're not even, they're not doing, the kid is bouncing off the effing walls on the float, practically tipping it over. There's nothing you can do to control him. Parece changuito. And I'm just like, oh my God.
So that's the audio. She got in trouble over. This was Nuri Martinez. Yesterday was the president of the LA City Council and is no longer the president of the LA City Council. However, we do not have indication of whether she's going to give up her council seat. She's just no longer the president of the city council. So we'll see how that plays out. This isn't even the only leaked audio we have tonight, and it's certainly not the only racist remarks we have. Holy shit. The NAACP is condemning remarks made by Senator Tommy Tuberville at a Trump rally over the weekend. NAACP denounces flat-out racist remarks by GOP Senator Tommy Tuberville. Senator Tuberville's comments are flat out racist, ignorant, and utterly sickening. NAACP President Derek Johnson said in a statement, his words promote a centuries-old lie about black people that throughout history resulted in the most dangerous policies and violent attacks on our community. Johnson, who noted that the far right has pushed such racist theories, added next time the senator wants to talk about crime, he should talk about Donald Trump's hate-fueled rally on January 6th, 2021, and the attacks that followed. Perhaps the real criminals are in his orbit. Bullshit, we gotta go to a different link. Now here is the comments.
Some people say, well, they're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime. They want crime. They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. Bullshit.
Are those comments appropriate for a sitting U.S. Senator, Congressman?
Well, I wouldn't say it the same way, but there is a problem in our country with crime. Major cities have seen a 40 to 50%.
I fucking right wingers. I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't remember if we were on or not during the fucking YouTube always acts weird on Edge. I have to ditch Edge and go back to Google. That's not even what I wanted. Though you should watch the freaking news. Freaking news is good shit. I don't even know what the video was. It was supposed to be. Fuck it. It had something to do with Tuberville. I wasn't done with it, but we're moving on now. Fuck Tommy Tuberville. I lived in Alabama. I tried my best to make sure he didn't get elected. I lived in Alabama when he got elected. I was so happy when Doug Jones won. I voted for Doug Jones. I was so disappointed when Tommy Tuberville won. Oh, God. I'm not high enough for this shit. I'm going to have to pack another bomb. Latest bombshell in Trump document scandal leaves New York Times reporter at a loss for words. Apparently, he was trying to blackmail the National Archives. Let's hear what this reporter has to say about it.
President to cut a deal with the National Archives over the presidential records.
Hold on.
New York Times has new reporting on an attempt by the former president to cut a deal with the National Archives over the presidential records he.
No, Mox, as someone who lived in Alabama, you would much rather have a Senator Nick Saban. Holy shit. You better hope Nick Saban runs for Senate. My God, that dude is awesome. Like, I will, like, I don't know, like, when BLM was going on, he marched with his players. He kneeled with his players. When COVID was happening, he made everybody, like, his protocols were a lot stricter than what the state's protocols were. Saban would be a way better senator. He's a super stand-up guy. And I would guess, like, his politics are more towards the center. So, of all the people that could be senator from Alabama, you would want Nick Saban to be the senator. Yeah. Like, fucking Saban's an alright guy. As somebody who lived in Alabama long enough, like, I lived there 7 years. So, and I worked in the news, right? So, like, even when it wasn't football season, every other day, it was a story about what Nick Saban was doing to the team. And, like, fucking, dude is fucking cool. He won me over. Yes, Tommy Tuberville is a fucking idiot and a bigot.
He took from the White House. He wanted documents about the Russia probe he thought would prove he was wronged by the FBI. So, according to the New York Times,
They became his bargaining chip. Quote, in exchange for those documents, Mr. Trump told advisors he would return to the National Archives the boxes and material he had taken to Mar-a-Lago. Mr. Trump's aides never pursued the idea. Joining me now is New York Times Washington correspondent Michael Schmidt. He is bylined on this reporting. He's also the author of the book, Donald Trump versus the United States. All right, so he wanted to make a trade. What does this reveal to you about the way Donald Trump was seeing these documents that he had and what he could get out of the United States government?
For us, the idea that Trump could take boxes and negotiate them for classified documents that the archives didn't want to give him.
So maybe I was still thinking about Nick Saban, but like I did not catch what the evidence was that they had for this claim.
The Times has new reporting on an attempt by the former president to cut a deal with the National Archives over the presidential records he took from the White House. He wanted documents about the Russia probe he thought would prove he was wronged by the FBI. So, according to the New York Times, they became his bargaining chip. Quote, in exchange for those documents, Mr. Trump told advisors he would return to the National Archives the boxes and material he had taken to Mar-a-Lago. Mr. Trump's aides never pursued the idea. Joining me now is New York Times Washington correspondent Michael Schmidt. He is bylined on this reporting. He's also the author of the book, Donald Trump versus the United States.
Oh, God, it's another ad for a book. I just want to point that out every time that we do this.
Donald Trump was seeing these documents that he had and what he could get out of the United States government.
For us, the idea that Trump could take boxes and negotiate them for classified documents that the archives didn't want to give him about the Russia investigation, not that they didn't want to give him, but they didn't think that he had the people around him to handle them, is just another example of how Trump has sort of approached all of these investigations.
This is another example of investigative journalism for profit, where you've apparently had this information that would have been pertinent to us, and you've been sitting on it for months just so you can sell a book, at least weeks. And this is the kind of bullshit that I can't stand about the media. And I don't like shows like Breaking Points. It's all like, oh, the media's doing this. Let's make fun of CNN. Blah, 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 blah. The New York Times. Taylor Lorenz did this. I get so sick of that fucking bullshit. But I do want to point out the missteps that the media makes. Because I do as somebody who has been in the media for over 20 years now, I take up for the media a lot. But this kind of bullshit pisses me off.
He was entertaining outlandish ideas that were not, certainly based in typical reality of what you can and cannot do. The idea that if you had materials that were government records and you could use them as a bargaining chip, it's just...
fuck Woodward for putting out his books, too.
And the best one we could come up with is outlandish. But in the story, what we do is we chronicle that not only did he fit a pattern of how
also, Mox, I don't know if I've told you good evening.
Investigation where he entertains crazy thoughts, but he misled his own aides. He pushed them to take actions that he was unwilling to take himself. And that in turn exposed the aides and the lawyers and the representatives that were working for him. That increased their own legal exposure. And with Trump, it's a story that time and time again repeats itself.
His lawyers sometimes have to hire their own lawyers. Let's play Donald Trump at a rally last night. Here's what he said about the documents.
I had a small number of boxes in storage at Mar-a-Lago, guarded by Secret Service and my people and everybody. I mean, it's safe. There is no crime. It's not a crime. And they should give me immediately back everything that they've taken from me because it's mine.
It's mine, he says. I mean, we've seen this before, Michael. He will get accused of something, and then he'll come out and he'll say, yeah, I did it. It's not a problem. It's not a crime.
Yeah, it's mine is something that he was saying behind the scenes in the year and a half after he left office, as the National Archives and the Justice Department were pushing for these materials to come back. There's certainly a true lack of understanding of how presidential records work, what you can and cannot do with them, who truly owns them. Obviously very similar to the way that he approached the powers of the presidency. He thought that the attorney general was a lawyer who worked for him, that was there essentially to defend him and to protect him.
Yeah, that's why he yeeted Jeff Sessions so quickly.
Similar themes that sort of build on each other in the Trump story. Obviously, this is different than the other ones, but there are these patterns that emerge. And here he is again going out publicly and saying these things. And as a prosecutor, I'm not even sure how you look at them, because he has said so many different things about this issue that
he's incriminated himself so many different times.
And now he's admitting, yes, he did have the documents. Originally, the documents were planted by the FBI. That was the narrative that he was pushing. So I just don't know where you begin if you're a prosecutor to understand his public statements, because they're just so all over the place.
Michael Schmidt.
Very astute analysis, I would say. How do you even start? Apparently we got some leaked audio from Kevin McCarthy. Maybe you start with the people around Trump. I don't even know what this is about yet. So I guess we're getting into the January 6th shit. Secret audio of McCarthy's claim about Trump call on January 6th.
Revealing tapes he secretly recorded while meeting with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy after the insurrection at the Capitol. Fanone writes about the tapes in his new memoir.
Fanone is hawking a book now. This is too much for me. Because I actually saw the headline about the secret Fanone tapes or whatever the fuck. And I clicked on the story, and it was just about in his new book. And I immediately clicked off of it. And my God, they got to me anyway. All right, let's hear what you got to say.
Saying, as I entered the Capitol, I did what I always did when I went on a risky op. I hit the record button on my iPhone and stuffed it in my pocket. Fanone was one of the officers attacked by Trump supporters during the riot. He was severely beaten. He suffered a heart attack as well as a traumatic brain injury. And we're going to speak to him shortly. First, though, let's get to CNN's Whitney Wild.
Who gives a shit what she has to say?
Tell us about this.
Well, Brianna, we knew that these meetings were happening. There was video of Harry Dunn and Michael Fanone, as well as Gladys Sicknick, on the Capitol that day, but we've never been able to go inside and hear what these lawmakers told these two officers, as well as the mother of an officer who died after that attack. In their own words, Michael Fanone bringing us those lawmakers.
A secretly recorded meeting with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy shows the lengths two officers protecting the Capitol on January 6th went to try to persuade him to take action against members spreading falsehoods about the attack.
What I found most distressing is the comments made by, unfortunately, as a lifelong Republican myself, coming from Republican lawmakers. Specifically people like Andrew Clyde, who have made statements about January 6th, which were, not just shocking, but disgraceful. Referring to January 6th as a regular tour day at the Capitol. What I see happening here is I see lawmakers who don't believe that January 6th is politically advantageous to them. Nobody buys it. It's crap. It's crap. It's disgraceful.
Never heard you say that you disagree with what they said. I don't believe that. I don't say that.
The meeting was legally recorded in June 2021 by then D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone. Fanone calls on McCarthy to denounce the 21
Must be a one-way state.
voted against granting congressional gold medals to those who defended the Capitol.
Who needs a break? Let's get some fresh guys up front.
What I've
it's probably in D.C.
Since then has been horrific. It's hell on earth. I am not a political person. I do not enjoy my time here on Capitol Hill. I would much rather be sitting at home with my daughters drinking a cold beer. But instead, I feel an extension of my service on January 6th to be up here righting this wrong.
The meeting was also attended by Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn and Gladys Sicknick, the mother of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died from multiple strokes after the January 6th attack. McCarthy tells him he wants to see justice.
Zero party consent.
Then urges McCarthy to take the House Select Committee investigating the Capitol attack seriously.
I'm asking you to agree to
everybody recording everything.
Special committee seriously, appointing serious people to that committee who will not be obstructionists and who will allow, the investigation to be done. In law enforcement, when we get involved in an investigation that we don't care about, we assign the biggest humps to participate.
You've never watched me on any of my appointments.
Yeah, but you understand. I would do it 2 ways. You're an intelligent man, Mr. McCarthy. I'm asking, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Is he?
McCarthy did appoint 5 Republicans to the committee. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected 2 of the choices because they objected to the certification of the 2020 election. McCarthy pulled the other 3. Just days after the meeting on July 1st, McCarthy said this.
It would be shocking to me for anybody from a party on the other side to come and want to accept a position, a Democrat from me, and it'd be shocking to me to have a Republican to go to a Speaker Pelosi, of all people, to accept a committee assignment.
In the recording, Fanone reminds McCarthy in the meeting how dangerous this day was for McCarthy and his staff, as seen by surveillance video of his staff fleeing their offices. He also brings up the phone call McCarthy had with then-President Trump urging him to act, a call that other Republican lawmakers said devolved into a shouting match.
The president's statements that day were BS. Saying, you were on the phone with him. While you were on the phone with him, I was giving
when aren't Trump statements BS?
My life. The way that he, saying this is what happens when you steal an election. Go home. I love you. What the is that? That came from the President of the United States.
McCarthy defended Trump at various points in the meeting.
He wasn't watching TV, he wasn't listening.
He knew what was going on.
He was?
He knew what was going on. He knew they were fighting for hours and hours and hours. It just...
McCarthy just lied there.
I don't know, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you from my phone call, I don't know that he did know that.
Significant moment there. Brianna, it's one thing to, for Mike, you see Mike Fanone on our air a lot, and it's one thing for someone to come out publicly, and voice their opinions. But what Fanone did was he told those people in this private meeting to their face how he really felt. He had the nerve to do that.
It was juicy. I'm glad we listened to that.
And he really did it. He took them to task. And at this point, what he has tried to do over the last, 18 months or so is show where people are flip-flopping on what is a really important issue and making it a core value for him to call people out when their narrative is changing and hold them accountable to the truth.
Yeah, trying to right a wrong, as he said in his discussion with Kevin McCarthy. Whitney, thank you so much for taking us through that. We appreciate it. And joining us now is the author of Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul, which is out in bookstores.
Yeah. I think we've heard what we need to hear. Let's talk about this group that's apparently targeting airports.
Now, the website for Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport has been down throughout the morning. ABC News reports there was a Russian cyber attack on multiple U.S. airport sites. And Channel 2 consumer investigator Justin Gray.
Interesting.
The airport where he's gathering the very latest information on this. Justin, what do you know?
Russian? I don't know that Russia, they kind of got their plate full right now. But it could be an independent group that is based in Russia or something like that is doing the hacking. Probably a ransom attempt. Those are becoming far more common now.
Well, Fred, I was able to log in here on my laptop just in the past couple of minutes, but our producer, Savannah, back there in the control room, she just tried to log on to the computer there, could not get on. So it remains hit and miss. In fact,
your laptop looks to be powered off, sir.
Saying everything was back in action. They deleted the tweet they'd put out because it seems like they're still having trouble keeping the website consistently available to customers. And, you know, travelers did have some issues this morning if they jumped on there trying to check on parking here at the airport or check those TSA wait lines. Instead, they found an error message. Airport officials, though, tell us that this is in no way impacting.
That's what I was thinking, a DNS attack.
They're now investigating the outage, but ABC News tells us they confirmed with a senior administration official that some of the nation's largest airports have been targeted for cyber attacks today by an attacker within the Russian Federation. Now, important to point out, the systems targeted do not handle air traffic control or internal airline communication or anything related to.
It just makes it a pain in the ass for the customers.
You might remember that the city of Atlanta was hit by a cyber attack back in 2018 that crippled city services here at their airport. They responded to that back then by shutting down the Wi-Fi. Now, city and airport officials will not confirm to us today whether this was in fact a cyber attack. They're just saying at the moment they're investigating. Again, though, ABC News confirming.
OMG, yes, you did. That was 7 o'clock Eastern. We came on early to cover that.
The country from inside the Russian Federation.
You can head to the YouTube and you can watch the replay of the debate.
Channel 2 Action News.
Okay, Justin, thank you very much. You mentioned that you're back on. You were able to get on. I just tried. I can't get on from here, so we'll see what the.
And then the local news has just evolved into like, I can't get on this website. Can you get on this website? Twitter's down right now. Blah, blah, blah. Cable news is nothing but promos for people's books. Local news is, can I get on this website right now? We truly are in a hellscape of late-stage capitalism. The hard-hitting news is on Twitch with the guy with the troll head. Oh my God. But I've gotta do this kind of shit. I got a Biden gaffe for you. He's got 2 words for you.
On Friday, President Joe Biden gave remarks on, quote,
it's not suck it,
building the economy from the bottom up and middle out in Hagerstown, Maryland. During his speech, the president made a gaffe, saying, quote, let me start off with 2 words, made in America. Last month, Biden made another cringeworthy gaffe when he called out, where's Jackie, at a White House event. Despite the fact that the Republican Congresswoman, Jackie Walsh, was killed in a car accident in August.
Ma'am, I wanted the video. Please show me the video.
Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America. Made in America. And that's not how.
Now, perhaps some of you who were here for the debate, when Tim Ryan was talking about Peter Thiel but not saying his name, I said, I've got 2 words for you. Peter fucking Thiel. Maybe some of you caught my joke, and it was about Joe Biden. That's what I was joking about.
Made in America. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not joking about that, as you know. And I want to say up front, and the management here understands, and I'm proud of them, I'm a union guy. And I tell you what, I made it real clear to everybody, whether speaking to the National Chamber of Commerce or the Business Roundtable, the reason I'm the most pro-union president in American history is because you're the single best workers in the world.
I don't know about American history, sir.
You know, a lot of people think that you just show up and you got a job. How about those 3, 4,
But also the bar was incredibly low. But thank you. I know Fox News is only playing the gaff part of that, but thank you for talking about unions and being pro-union. Thank you, right-wing media, for pointing out this speech to me so I can give them props on promoting unions. Shove it, Fox News. One of the stars from Law and Order got into it with Congressman Lauren Boebert, who apparently, I haven't had a chance to cover this. Apparently her race is incredibly tight now. That just this unknown Democratic, I can't even tell you what his name is, and I know some weird challengers like Marcus Flowers going up against Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia, but I don't even know who the Democratic challenger is for Lauren Boebert, but polls show he has a shot now. On Order star Chris Maloney in a Twitter spat with former Trump admin official Stephen Miller. Stevie, stick to writing fascist speeches, he said. Hold on, I thought I had the, I'd rather read from the Deadline version of this. Law and Order star Chris Maloney in a Twitter spat with former Trump admin official Stephen Miller. It's still not showing the fucking tweets. And I'm suspended from Twitter. So, Chris Maloney was trying to dunk on Lauren Boebert. She said 2 words, "Let's go Brandon," making a joke about the Biden speech that we just saw a clip from. Chris Maloney said there's got to be a stupid prize GOP reps are competing for. Stephen Miller tried to clap back. Turns out the guy with the most unwatchable Law and Order spinoff is a very angry and very ignorant far-left ideologue. If he had any decency or self-respect, he'd apologize to the Congresswoman, unless he still can't grasp how he's embarrassed himself. This last time I got booted from the Twitter, it would be probably for being a ban evader, because I've been banned. I think this is my actual Twitter that you were looking at right here. The one I've had. Nope. This was another one. That's a different Twitter. I've had multiple. They keep getting me. Chris Maloney responded back when Nosferatu attempts shade. Stevie, stick to writing fascist speeches. Stephen Miller even tried to clap back again. You publicly owned yourself while denigrating a member of Congress. The classy and decent move would be to delete the tweet and apologize, but it's clear class and decency, much like acting ability, are traits you lack. Wow. I've got to hand it to Miller. No wonder he's a speechwriter. It was a good clapback. Or, as Chris Maloney responds back, because I'm not up on everything Biden, I missed the joke. But the congressman, Cong rep, I guess, is so reliably ignorant, her tweet would make complete sense. And save the classy and decent suggestion. Those are 2 things you and your bloat know nothing about.
Come on, man.
Twitter don't like me. Hopefully when Musk takes over, he gives me my Twitter back. It kind of makes me want to watch his Law and Order episodes or whatever, his spinoff. Stephen Miller is one of those people that's been like the military's gone woke kind of motherfuckers. After a general's clash with Fox News' Tucker Carlson, soldiers are worried that the U.S. Army has gone full MAGA. Michael Grinston, the Sergeant Major of the Army, said he is steadfast in his commitment to craft a more inclusive environment for women in the military after a watchdog investigation reportedly criticized a senior officer for rebuking attacks on servicewomen. Task and Purpose last Wednesday first disclosed the details of an Inspector General investigation of Major General Patrick Donahoe, an armor officer that reportedly found his use of Twitter to be inappropriate after he blasted a segment from Fox News' Tucker Carlson attacking the Army for allowing pregnant women to serve. Donahoe continued to engage with critical commentators on social media. Donahoe intended to retire in July, but has been assigned as a special assistant to the Army's Training and Doctrine Command. Internally or not, this whole thing showed women that we are not worth defending, one non-commissioned officer told military.com. If he can get slapped for this, why would anyone defend women in public? Army officials haven't decided Donahoe's fate, which could include a reduction in rank for speaking out against Tucker Carlson. Army officials haven't decided Donahoe's fate, which could include a reduction in rank, but the launch of the investigation itself was seen as a gut punch to those who have advocated supporting female soldiers. To some, scrutinizing Donahoe's defense of women online is an example of the military bending the knee to right-wing media. Merkin, good evening. Crayon-eating motherfuckers indeed. Grinston posted a message on Twitter last Thursday that seemed to refer to the swirling controversy. Let me be absolutely clear, I stand with our women in uniform. Your leaders and I will continue to defend our people vigorously, and thank you all for choosing to serve in a time where many do not. You are our greatest strength and most strategic advantage. That's woke to Tucker Carlson.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
News of the investigation comes as more attention is paid to some of the problems female troops have long faced, and as women, including Army Secretary Christine Wormuth, increasingly take leadership roles. And one of the problems, it may not get into it here in the Insider article, or it may get into it, is the fucking rape of females in the military. The rape of men, too. They don't talk enough about that, and men don't report that enough in the military. It goes way underreported. Rape in military in general is a problem of males and particularly of females. Just want to point that out. The numbers of women who get raped in the military are absolutely appalling. And I should have hit the content warning before talking about this. But I know for a fact that the men who get raped in the military go completely underreported. Severely underreported. Justin here with the tea. The military has adopted new policies designed to boost the quality of life for female soldiers, including a total revamp of parenthood policies, such as making it easier for women to pump breast milk on duty and relaxing grooming standards to allow them to have ponytails and braids. Those efforts were largely led by mid-ranking women in the service, a signal that top leaders are listening to their concerns. The controversy for Donahoe originated in March of 2021 when Carlson blasted the Defense Department for efforts to make military service more appealing and accommodating to women, such as developing maternity uniforms. Oh, I remember when he bitched about that. Perhaps we should have the men in military out there sunning their balls, Tucker. Maybe that'd make them more manly. This segment that served as a flashpoint for right-wing attacks on the military, labeling the armed services as woke.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
We're so fixated on diversity and inclusion that it has abandoned its priorities. It's an accusation without evidence that has surfaced since President Joe Biden took office. I can assure you, just like the economy, any effect that presidents have on the military, those changes take a long time to take effect. Maybe even longer than the effect on the economy that presidents have. I usually say give it 2 to 3 years to see the effect presidents have on the economy. I would say they don't have that much influence over the military, to be honest with you. Carlson was likely referring to an International Women's Day speech by Biden that same month in which he talked about key female leaders in the military, including General Laura Richardson, who had been recently nominated to head the U.S. Southern Command. Although the president did not suggest that the military needed to be more feminine, nor did he use the word during the address. In a response, Donahoe shared a video on Twitter of him conducting re-enlistment ceremony. Let's take a look at this video. I don't know. Listen, can we get the Carlson segment? Oh no, that's what Tucker was referring to. This was the video that Donahoe posted. This is me yesterday conducting a re-enlistment for one of the tens of thousands of women who serve in our Army. Just a reminder that Tucker Carlson couldn't be more wrong.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. I, Maria Corona, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, I will obey the orders of the President of the United States, the orders of the officers appointed over me,
I can say that this is a badass shot just because, like, we're staring down the barrel of a tank.
So help me God.
And how dare they fist bump and take up COVID protocols, right? So that was the video that he shared in response to Tucker Carlson. Other Army leaders backed the sentiment, including Grinston, who said on Twitter, "Women lead our most lethal units with character. They will dominate any future battlefield we're called to fight on. Tucker Carlson's words are divisive, don't reflect our values." Grinston is seemingly not under investigation, according to multiple sources familiar with the matter. He is set to retire in roughly a year, but those tweets, especially from Donahoe, captured the ire of partisan show hosts on Fox News, as well as Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Army investigators said Donahoe's behavior on Twitter exhibited poor judgment, according to Task and Purposes reporting. Donahoe was an avid user of social media at a time when most military leaders were wary of some of the risk of being active in the military community online. At an Army conference in 2019, he argued the risks were overblown and that being communicative is critical to building relationships with soldiers, journalists, and other stakeholders. The richness of the discussion outweighs the risks, Donahoe said. Sounds like a pretty American value to me. Donahoe's clash with Fox News and the ensuing investigation might make it even more difficult for leaders in the service to communicate online in the future, but in the short term, and Tucker is supposedly one of those free speech advocates, but in the short term, the controversy is creating confusion, according to Catherine Kuzminski, a senior fellow and director of the Military Veterans and Society program at the Center for a New American Security. There is unclear policy and guidance on social media use, she said. Among the General Officer Corps, there tend to be difficult expectations. Oh, just an interesting story I wanted to highlight. Now we're going to go over to, I might need a content warning for violence on this one. Truth is light. Welcome. Thank you for being a freaking follower. Truth is light. So this is one of those religious types that you probably want to stay away from. Christian preacher says that if God tells you to kill somebody, you should probably do it. Oh, weird.
Do you think of people that commit murder and then state, God told me to do it? Well, I'm going to say something controversial that will absolutely delight atheists because they like to take, not all atheists, some.
Well, sir, here I am. You got me. The headline got me. What you got to say? Lay it on me, preacher boy.
Internet atheists like to take things out of context and use it to make me look bad. I don't care.
Oh, I'm going to play the whole thing.
Not like anything changed. If anything, I'm just glad people like hate follow me. Like, oh, at least that's there. You know, maybe they're hearing the gospel. Maybe God willing, there's like some truth of Christ that will eke through there. You know. So I'm gonna say something here. If God really told them to do it, then they were right. If God didn't tell them to do it, then they were wrong.
Well, how do I take you out of context on that one, sir?
Who's blaming God, which just makes it worse. God does have a right to tell. Now let me give an analogy that might help people swallow this better, because I feel the rejection that people would have to this naturally. Let's say that America gets involved in a just war, right? Or let's not even do that. Let's just say that you have a.
I mean, that's a crazy hypothetical. Like, when have we gotten involved in a just war, sir? You might be able to make an argument for World War II with me, but like the thing I'm going to argue back is like, we kind of funded the Nazis. The American right wing kind of funded the Nazis. So, kind of a wash on that one, isn't it? What just war are we talking about here?
A police officer who is getting involved in some kind of like horrible school shooting type thing, right? And he gets permission from the government and from the local police department and all that when he sees a person on campus with a gun, he just opens fire.
Okay, that's not murder. Okay, murder is a very specific definition. It means the unlawful taking of a life. The reason I know that off the top of my head is I've had to say it to so many pro-lifers. Because like they're like, abortion is murder. And like, no, technically that's a legal term. It is not murder 100%. Like, murder is the unlawful taking of a life. You have to be found guilty in a court of law of murder. Taking a life of a cop in a school shooting situation, supposedly that is a lawful taking of a life. It's not murder. However, I mean, we see cops murder people all the time. And in school shooting situations, we see them not do jack all. So your hypothetical is real bullshit over here.
And so he shoots them. And then someone's like, how dare you shoot that person? And he goes, well, like, the government told me to. There's an element of this that really is the facts. Like, the government actually just gave him a badge and a gun and approved him and gave him policies that he's supposed to operate by. And so, in a sense, the government just told him to. And that is an actual defense. Like, if that wasn't in place, then you'd have
Unfortunately, once again, like, I'm getting into technicalities here. Like, the government has told cops that they have no duty to protect anybody out here, first of all. Like, their discretion to shoot somebody is completely on them, it seems. And very rarely do we get justice when they do murder people. I mean, we saw that in the story that we covered at the top of the show, the top of the news portion of the show, where they shot the kid that was just sitting there eating a burger in his car. They charged him! They charged him, motherfucker! But also, this is not the point. He's trying to make a ass backwards analogy to justify murder. He's not doing a good job. And the thing that he said earlier about if God legitimately told somebody to kill somebody, that is justifiable. That makes you batshit crazy and fucking dangerous, dude. Fuck off. Amen. If some of you are new here, I'll go ahead and sum up my political leanings for you. I try to do this ever so often for the new people. I would give anything in the world to piss in Dan Crenshaw's open eye hole. Give me that eye pussy. No. Slap that hooch ass. Thank you for being here. And like, no, voting for, your vote is strategic. And I hate having to keep going over this. If people want to start third parties at like the local level, I'm totally down with that. But when we're talking about like the congressional, the federal level, Senate, and presidential, like the only hope we've got is to take over the Democratic Party. But you can't just expect to vote once. If you lean towards a leftist position, perhaps you don't lean towards a leftist position. Perhaps you are somebody that maybe once identified with the Democrats and feel that they are going too far left, and you identify more with the Republican position. And if so, fuck you then. Like, you don't tell us what to do with our party. Right in that eye, pussy. Would you like to talk about it? Slap that Hugh ass. I have not had the phone lines open. Cognitive mess of a president?
Come on, man.
Perhaps you just joined us here on the show, but like I covered the Biden gaffe, but also I listened to another couple minutes of that speech, and he spoke very eloquently about unions. So perhaps you should watch the entire show. Because I made multiple jokes about Biden. Earlier in the debate, I was like, I got 2 words for you. Peter fucking Thiel. Dude, if you think Democrats are socialists, then like, nobody should listen to you about anything. If you think Joe Biden, who once upon a time was called the senator from MBNA, if you're too young to know what MBNA was, it was a credit card company that was based in Delaware. He was bought and paid for by the credit card companies and Wall Street. A lot of financial institutions are located in Delaware, specifically because of the policies that Joe Biden has instigated. Perhaps you don't know what socialist means, but if you're bought and paid for by the credit card companies and Wall Street, you are the antithesis of a socialist. So learn what fucking words mean before you go around using them. It's just further proof that right-wingers are goddamn morons. Welcome to the Troll Patrol. Thank you for being here. Yeah, we totally take punches at Biden when it's warranted, and we cheer Biden on when it's deserved. Even the other day when I was giving him props on the pardons of federal marijuana possession, I brought up that he was one of the authors of the crime bill. We always put things in perspective here on this show. I can't do that voice. I wanted to do the Apu voice. I love Apu. I love old school Simpsons, but I understand. You got to change with the times. You got to cave to the woke moralists.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
For tonight's animal video, I always end the show with an animal video. Tonight's is a doozy. Enjoy this one. We're going to watch a man tame an alligator with marshmallow treats. I do need to check in with the rail workers. We covered that when they first went on strike.
I value my arm and my finger.
I have not gotten an update on that. Ida, good evening. Oh, Reagan was far. Reagan more than likely didn't know where he was at most of his second term. I've read multiple sources say that about Ronald Reagan. The Alzheimer's had kicked in pretty hard. And you hate to make fun of somebody like that, but also like, But Reagan was also at a time when presidents' images were far more crafted. It was really during the 90s and the age of the 24-hour news cycle, the Drudge Report. Bill Clinton, like he didn't get away with a lot of things that presidents in the past got away with. And the current age is something to behold of media. Wow. Reagan was indeed one of the worst presidents we've ever had. His effect is still reverberating throughout the economy. I've got some charts here that explain it pretty thoroughly. Here is the percent increase since 1970 in the annual cost to attend a university in Illinois, the median household income in Illinois, and the minimum wage in Illinois. Here's where Ronald Reagan took office. Illinois, just an example state. United States debt in 2014 dollars and as a percent of GDP. That line switches places during the Reagan administration. Odd. I bet that's just a coincidence. Oh, here's life expectancy versus healthcare spending over time from 1970 to 2014. How did that uncouple during the Reagan administration? That's weird. That's weird. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. Here is the total public debt as a percent of gross domestic product. Weird, that number just skyrockets when Reagan takes office. Here is incarcerated Americans from 1920 to 2014. There's where Reagan took office. Once again, I'm sure it's just a coincidence. The top marginal tax rate from 1966 2014. And I really don't like this chart. And a lot of those charts you could accuse of being deceptive because of the time frame they take. And this one I would say is deceptive because if we go back just a few more years, the top marginal tax rate is up here. It's up here. It's up here. I think it's kind of deceptive because it makes the top marginal tax rate look kind of a lot smaller than what it was back here in the 50s under Eisenhower, who lowered it to like 96%. This is the top marginal tax rate when Reagan took office. Loop. I'm sure all of those things are just a coincidence. That Reagan had absolutely nothing to do with that. As always, I end the show with an animal video. It's not always a cuddly animal video, but sometimes it is. If you guys are just joining in, usually we're doing a news countdown kind of show. News rundown of the day. Oh, they rejected it? Oh, fuck yeah, Mox. We're going to get into that tomorrow. I was hoping they would. When we did the story originally, when we were coming up on the strike, it was like the second week of September, the actual union seemed like they weren't cool with the deal. There was a cooling off period, and it was about a month, so this is about the time that we would hear a update on that. We will get into all that tomorrow. Here's your animal video for the day. Dude tames a alligator with some marshmallows. Oh, we got sound on this. What sound? Petting the motherfucker!
No.
Why not? The next time you
I value my arm and my finger.
Dustin, good evening. I didn't know alligators like mustard or marshmallows. He's just shaking the bag at him. It's coming just like a pet would. He booped his snoot. I ain't booping no snoot.
No.
Why not? The next time you
I value my arm and my finger.
Okay, if you're watching on Twitch, it is Christina's birthday. So we're going to head over to Cosmopolitics and say happy birthday to Christina. I can't believe he keeps fucking booping the snoot. Gotta be. I don't know where this is at. You would think it's in Florida. Florida man tames alligator. Of course, it's Florida. They celebrated their 40th anniversary by going and taming an alligator. All right, so if you're watching on Twitch or heading over to Cosmopolitics, it is Christina's birthday. Do tell her happy birthday. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm Justin Freakin. We will see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol live.